Why, hello there! How are you today? Awesome Soul here, and welcome to something fairly interesting. Now, I know most of you have probably seen what you're seeing on screen before you. It's propagated throughout Twitter, and I'm sure it's made its rounds on YouTube already. But I do want to kind of take this opportunity to point out a couple of things, and kind of use this as a jumping off point for a video that I have been planning to do for a little while now. If you don't know, these are the original beta designs for Generation 2. Somebody recently got their hands on an original copy, and a bunch of people data mined it, and well, now we have this, with some very intriguing designs, shall we say. Some of them are pretty cool, others are, well, not so cool. It's rather obvious why they didn't quite make the cut. But yes, the reason that you came to this video is most likely the title, or maybe you came here for these sprites. I don't know. But what I did want to talk about is the importance of baby Pokemon in the Pokemon franchise. Yes, you heard me right, the importance of baby Pokemon, which is something I seldom, if ever, hear muttered from anyone. I know most people aren't really the biggest fans of baby Pokemon, but maybe after listening to my thoughts on it, you might change your mind. Now, the reason I am using this whole beta release leak as a jumping off point, because the sheer amount of baby Pokemon in this beta version is pretty insane. Previously, we'd get, a couple baby Pokemon, but as you can see here, we have a grand total of 17 baby Pokemon. Yes, 17 baby Pokemon in a single generation. Now yes, that might seem kind of interesting to some. I know a lot of people really love baby Meowth, and there's also quite a bit of love for baby Growlithe down there, but honestly, I'm glad a fair amount of these were cut out, though there is one that I'm disappointed by. Now, hold on, I hear you ask. Yes, I know I said the importance of baby Pokemon, and now I've said that I'm happy that some of them were cut. Well, this Pokemon right here is the perfect example of why I feel baby Pokemon are so important to the series. If you couldn't quite tell, or somehow missed it in the thumbnail, this is baby Tangela. Also, as a little aside, it seems like Tangrowth was originally planned to be a Generation 2 Pokemon at one point, though I'm kind of glad it wasn't, because the design they had was, interesting, shall we say. I much prefer the Generation 4 design. But yeah, as you can see there, super cute, super original, and honestly, I'm incredibly disappointed that this was actually cut from the game. Maybe we'll get it back at some point, but we've gone with 3 whole generations of no baby Pokemon, so I'm not holding my breath. Hopefully that'll change in Generation 8, but we'll see. Anyways, what am I getting at? Well, to me, one of, if not the biggest reasons to have baby Pokemon in the game is to actually let players start earlier with that Pokemon species, and therefore letting them bond a whole lot better using that Pokemon. Say for example, there's a species they really like, but because its base stat total is so high, you're never gonna find it until late game. And Tangela is kind of one of those Pokemon. It does have pretty solid stats, so usually you're not gonna find it until sort of mid to late game. But if they had this baby Tangela, you could probably start your journey with one of these guys on your team. Eventually make your way up to a Tangela, and then finally a Tangrowth. Now really, out of all of the ones that were cut, this baby Tangela is really the only one I'm disappointed about. Jumping out of there and going on to all the other baby Pokemon, we kind of get a bigger picture of what kind of my feelings are. So the vast majority of these Pokemon are actually pretty difficult to obtain their fully evolved form, with a couple of exceptions, of course, Pichu, Igglybuff, and Cleffa being those ones, and also Azurill as well. For the rest of them though, getting their fully evolved form is fairly difficult, and something you won't do until late game. Budew is actually a pretty good example of this. Originally, Roselia was the only Pokemon in this evolution line, and you could get it decently early in your playthrough. However, when they expanded the evolution line in the following gen, they made it so you could pretty much start your journey with what would eventually become a Roselia on your team. So let's say Roselia is your favorite Pokemon, and you want to make sure you get that thing as soon as possible in your journey. You want it to essentially be your starter Pokemon. But now, with Budew being a thing, you can go ahead and do that. If I remember Pearl from way back, you could get Budew pretty early on. I think it was sort of around with Kricketot. So yeah, it would have been pretty low level. I'm sure I could just double check that, but it's more fun just to go off memory. Clearly, I'm a professional. So yeah, I think that kind of hammers that point home. Hopefully you understand what I'm kind of getting at. It's really a way for people to access their favorite Pokemon a lot earlier in the game. Speaking of which, I actually feel there's quite a few Pokemon out there that actually deserve to have a baby Pokemon added to their evolution line. And one that immediately comes to mind for me would be Scyther, a first stage Pokemon which has a base stat total of 500. So yeah, it's a slight problem if you ever really want to get one in a playthrough. Like in Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Moon, for example. Yes, Scyther was available in the game. However, you had to beat the Elite Four before you could get access to it. I happen to quite like Scyther and Scizor, and unfortunately, that really barred me from using it. Even though it was in the game, it was just far enough out of my reach, just sort of standing there taunting me. It's like, oh, what's that? You want me on your team? Well, screw you. Beat the Elite Four first. Another one would be Skarmory, because if you didn't know, Skarmory and Mantine were actually version exclusives. So Mantine getting a pre-evolution and then Skarmory not getting a pre-evolution was a little odd, but hey, what can you do? I'm sure I could go on and on about Pokemon that deserve a baby evolution, but hopefully you kind of get the point of this video. I'm curious to know what you think of this. Has this kind of changed your mind on baby Pokemon? Or do you still think they're kind of pointless? And if you do agree with me that they are in fact important to the franchise, what baby Pokemon would you like to see in the future? But with that, guys, I of course have been the Awesome Soul. If you did enjoy this kind of little mini discussion video, maybe consider subscribing, sort of sticking around. I am trying to get out more Pokemon videos on this channel. So yeah, that would be greatly appreciated. I of course have been the Awesome Soul. I'll see you next time. Take care.